This is Kimba's Academy with 20 students who cannot stay here until graduation. A young man was walking in a garden full of flowers when a purple orchid-like flower said that a frightening future awaited him after the opening day. After walking a few steps, he heard a girl ahead of him who also seemed to listen to those words and now looked very worried. Suddenly, from behind, a red-haired young man appeared and said, "Don't mind the boastful words of that plant. Magical plants have personalities depending on the soil quality, so there are a lot of mischievous plants here." Suddenly, on the other side, a girl was scolding a white-haired for his rudeness in stepping on a flower stem. After she spoke, the flower immediately praised the rare beauty of the girl who looked like Katie. She walked casually but always exuded charm. Was it because of her rare foreign attire or was it her destiny? Greeting them was a parade of magical creatures. Truly, Kimba's Academy was full of unique things. After the plants, it was the animals' turn. The golden dragon at the front was a special type, with scales more beautiful than any other kind. The girl liked magical animals, but when she saw a troll being treated like a monster and forced to march, she felt upset because, although wild trolls could attack humans, they indeed needed to be trained. The red-haired young man and the girl had a fierce argument, disturbing the white-haired young man who was reading a book. In short, they decided to introduce themselves. The girl was just about to mention her name when suddenly a mysterious person used magic to make her run towards the parade. Everyone felt it was very dangerous, so they chased after her. The closer she got to the troll, the more the magic pushed her forward, but suddenly the magic stopped and she fell. Katie managed to stop her just in time. Then, they saw the girl preparing to attack the troll, so they used wind magic to help. That's when Katie drew her sword and managed to defeat the troll. After that, she thanked everyone for helping her and said she was almost scared to death before the opening day. Everyone gathered in a large building when the young man asked Katie if she had a special plan for daring to attack the troll. She laughed loudly and said that her sword didn't even have a blade. After talking for quite a while, the young man felt that this girl was a bit strange, but her crystal-like hair facilitated the flow of magic through her body, and her potential to become a magical witch was very high. The headmaster finally appeared on stage with a cool flash of lightning. His voice was loud and clear. He apologized for the incident with the troll and said that they would study at this school for 7 years. The school's style implemented freedom and achievement. In short, do what you like. If 80 students successfully graduate, then the other 20 will be devoured by magic. Then, Katie asked the headmaster if she could use acupressure techniques on her temples if she had a headache. This girl was indeed a bit silly. The welcoming event began, and the headmaster used magic to transport everyone to the party venue. Finally, everyone got a chance to introduce themselves. First was Chella. She was the eldest daughter of a large family. Next was Katie, a foreign student who loved all kinds of magical animals. Then the red-haired young man named Guy was born into a family of magical farmers and was quite confident in his knowledge of plants. The white-haired named Pete looked very elegant, but he and his family were very ordinary. Next was Oliver, whose family had 2 generations of wizards, and for some reason, he was adopted by his relatives, and his cousins who studied at the school told him many stories. Lastly was someone special. She came from the Samui family in another kingdom, and her name was Nanao. That day, when Nanao was surrounded by enemies, a sorcerer happened to rescue her and recommended her here. It was only later known that the sorcerer was Chella's father. After the story was over, everyone started eating because they were very hungry. Nanao, who was strong, planned to eat all the beef for 6 people, but everyone prevented her because they don't do that here. Oliver divided and brought the portions to the girls, making Nanao feel like a princess. The night passed peacefully. Oliver woke up very early. At 5 a.m. Pete's friend, who had previously mocked the room, was sleeping soundly. As Oliver wandered around the school, suddenly a girl claimed to be a secret agent sent by her cousin to guard him because they were very worried. After much questioning, Oliver finally learned her name was Teresa. They then promised to meet again later. After walking for a while, Oliver saw Nana bathing in the fountain, which surprised him. Bathing in a fountain like this made everything visible, so Oliver used magic to cover her from the view of people in the men's dormitory. However, Nana wasn't too concerned because her friend was the one embarrassed, she said jokingly. In reality, Nana was cleansing blood from a previous battle as part of a ritual. After bathing, Nana realized she didn't have a change of clothes, so Oliver lent her his clothes. Early in the morning, the 3 girls asked if they had slept well on their first night. Then Oliver and Pete arrived, while Guy hurriedly ran because he had overslept. Guy's alarm clock was broken due to a disturbance by time fairies, so he was late. Guy was surprised to see Nana wearing a uniform similar to a sorcerer's and asked why Oliver's uniform was wet. "It's nothing," he replied. First, they learned sword magic. Before they started fighting, Master Gan asked, "What is the definition of sword magic?" Pete raised his hand to answer, although some friends teased him because he was ordinary. Pete explained that 400 years ago, sorcerers began using swords with magic because a great sorcerer at that time lost to an ordinary person. They used swords in close combat when they couldn't use magic in time. To set the mood, the teacher asked experienced students to spar. Nana quickly raised her hand, as did the red-haired youth, Richer. Nana's friends noticed her proud face, wanting to show her prowess. Seeing this, Oliver asked the teacher to match Nana with Richer. Sir intervened to object, but Oliver said, seeing a friend in danger without helping is truly wrong. Finally, Oliver fought Nana. Their swords were enchanted to prevent injury. The fight ended when one managed to strike the opponent's head or chest. The fight began, and Oliver assumed Nana wasn't familiar with magic. However, when Nana's hair changed color, her attacks were very strong, using deadly sword techniques. Oliver was surprised, not knowing how much blood he had shed. When he was about to end the fight, the teacher stopped him. Chella also asked for the match to be cancelled. After class, Nana approached Oliver to discuss the fight. She enjoyed the fight and suggested fighting again with real swords without magic. Oliver, fearful, shouted a refusal because he didn't want to kill or be killed. Nana didn't understand and felt sad. Everyone then sat relaxed in the fountain, while Guy complained about magic lessons. The teacher said that as sorcerers, the only thing they wielded was a white wand and they had to handle everything with magic. After that, the lesson on magical creatures liked by Caddy began. Caddy was very enthusiastic. At the beginning of class, the teacher reprimanded Caddy, reminding her that creatures here were like resources. Today's task was to channel magic into silkworms to make them produce cocoons multiple times. If too much magic was used, the silkworms would turn into fierce monsters. The task for the students was to make cocoons. Each person received 10 caterpillars, 5 succeeding was enough. While others were busy calming caterpillars that turned into monsters, Chella finished everything with only one failure. Oliver also succeeded, and they both helped their friends. Pete succeeded too, but Guy was still struggling. The teacher walked around observing, acknowledging that this year's students were of high quality. Finally, everything was completed and Katie made 9 caterpillars succeed. She only wanted to exert everything to save lives, not just complete the task. Failures turned into evil monsters. She didn't want to give up and bit her hand. Fortunately, Chella and Oliver severed it. Because of this incident, they lost points. After class, Oliver spoke with Katie and learned that she had been living with these creatures since childhood, so she couldn't bear to see them hurt. Oliver said the house where he was born was like the residence of angels. However, he came down to earth and faced the cruelty of this world. So, he couldn't be an angel anymore, but he still kept his kindness. It was truly valuable. As Oliver walked around, he saw Teresa announcing that she had business at her cousin's house, so she would be absent for a while. During dinner, Nanako's face was always gloomy and Pete didn't have a book, so Chella and Oliver helped her find it. Because there were many elves here who liked to play around, finding the book was not easy. Katie had heard that the Kimbaji Auditorium was built on top of a giant labyrinth. It turned out the 3 of them got lost in the labyrinth and met a girl named VJI, a student from Class N, who was very mysterious. She always used some kind of fragrance to charm them. After successfully escaping, they met Kiju, also a student from Class N. Kiju and VJI teased each other for a moment then fought. They summoned giant monsters that bit each other. Seeing this, they quickly fled. However, they were blocked by a bone fence made by Kiju. When they didn't know what to do, Nanako suddenly arrived. The two fought more fiercely. Nanako told everyone to retreat because if she joined the fight, the situation would be divided into 3 sides and no one could escape anymore. Nanako said something that made everyone think, people who escape death are looking for a place to die. After that, Nanako drew her sword and stepped forward. Seeing this, Oliver also stepped forward without hesitation. Suddenly, someone used holy fire to stop all this chaos. It was Andon, the student council president, along with Wai Chao, a very cool student from Class N, overseeing. He even kissed them and called them cute kittens. Andon then told the 2 fighting people that their punishment would be announced later. If they understood, they had to return to the deepest level of the labyrinth. They usually didn't wander around this place. It turns out they were very interested in new students. Then, the 2 seniors showed the way out. Shortly after leaving, Oliver questioned Nanako about her courage to raid such a deadly place alone. Chella immediately urged him to speak seriously this time. Indeed, as Oliver said, she was not attached to her life. The story of 50,000 soldiers led by Sheena and the rear troops of Nanako was only 200 people. She kept killing until she met a very strong warrior who jumped to stop her, but he was also killed by her. When she realized it, all the soldiers had surrounded her without giving her an escape route. She asked for a final duel with the general's son-in-law, the #1 fighter of the clan. But it turned out to be the person she had just killed. She had killed a samurai without asking his name. This was a great insult, so the general was also going to kill her without asking her name. Feeling disappointed, she gave up. Thinking her life was about to end, suddenly a mysterious wizard appeared just in time and used Western magic to save Nanako. Intrigued by the child's great potential in swordsmanship, he invited her to his country to become a wizard. Since arriving at the Wizard Academy, no one had been able to make her fight seriously. So, since dueling with Oliver, she had felt a newfound happiness. But then Oliver firmly refused. This made Nanako sad, angry, and suffering. She wanted a serious fight where one of them would have to sleep. She loved someone by dueling to the death with that person through swordsmanship to show her love. Although she knew this was strange, she couldn't let go of swordsmanship. Seeing this, Chella suggested Nanako try to change herself. Because loving someone and loving a sword is no different, so instead of seeing the sword, look at the person. Try to forget the past and start a new life experience. Everyone also supported her to help restore her spirits, and enforced Nanako to promise not to sacrifice her life anymore. Nanako agreed and was also determined to do her best on her new journey. In the moment of clashing swords, both knew they were each other's fated enemies. Finally, the next day, she went to school happily and enthusiastically attended classes. Because Chella said not to look at people through swords, Nanako looked at Oliver. Suddenly, Katie came with a little jealousy and said Nanako shouldn't get too close to him. Pete and Y, seeing this, quickly disturbed Katie in the sword training class of Master Gal Oliver. There was a little question whether the teacher could use magic swords. Easily, Master Gallon explained to his students that in this world, there are 6 different types of magical swords, all with extraordinary powers. However, because this is secret information, Master Gallon couldn't elaborate further. When things calmed down, a young man came and asked if Oliver was studying or not. This young man, for some reason, kept talking. Seeing this, the boss Zalo said, "Long talk is foolish, he must fight Oliver first before he can shut his mouth." The young man agreed. But when he saw Nanako say that she fought for fun, the young man became very angry. At this point, Master Gallon heard their noisy voices and immediately dispersed them. Chella also told the young man that she grew up with him, so she understood that he always wanted to show his strength. While chatting, Pete came and told them that the troll monster was almost executed, so Katie was there arguing with the teacher. The teacher was confused about whether Katie was a monkey or a human because he couldn't understand, so he used magic that caused damage to Katie's entire body. Luckily, Oliver's group arrived just in time, otherwise, who knows what the teacher would do next. As the situation heated up, suddenly Vera and a platinum-haired young man appeared. After talking, the female teacher became desperate and left. It turned out that Vera liked non-human creatures like Katie, making Katie very happy because there was someone with a personality similar to hers. As everyone prepared to return to class, a letter arrived from Anio saying that she wanted to fight Oliver and Nanako. Tensions escalated. Katie went to the troll's place and people who didn't like this started talking about it, saying that Katie and the troll were like close friends. They mocked her for spending time with a stupid wild creature, not to mention the troll's foul smell. Katie wanted to teach them a lesson, but fortunately, Oliver stopped her. The longer it went on, the more outrageous they became. When Katie entered, they took advantage of her to insult her and say that she mimicked the troll's voice and seemed to have forgotten how to speak like a human, even wanting to send Katie back to her cage. Angry, Oliver immediately attacked them. Peace is a very sacred word, so Oliver used lightning magic and finally, they were all punished in an underground prison. Despite the punishment, they remained proud because Katie managed to defeat 5 people and Nano 10, but Oliver was still the best. Seeing Oliver, Katie immediately apologized, but Oliver said it wasn't her fault, just that he was a little angry and couldn't control himself. He said that if he were in Oliver's position, he would do the same. Katie was very happy because everyone stood up to defend her from humiliation. Their friends now became enemies, so in the match with Anio, no one would help them. When night fell and the hunters woke up, Oliver led an expedition into a large labyrinth already filled with cheering people. Oliver asked Ophelia to protect 3 people, while he and Nana would ascend to the spectator stands. However, before that, there was a small show. Anil appeared and around him were cages filled with wolves. Anil killed all the wolves, making the crowd cheer louder. Then Andai appeared, and Oliver asked what his intention was. It turned out he didn't want to fight for victory, so the form of the competition was changed. Oliver and Nana would compete to see who could kill more wolves, and the winner would be determined from there. It sounded fair, but Andai turned out to be an expert in this game. Suddenly, there was one wolf left, scared, clinging to its cage, but then someone pulled it out, using torture magic and then shooting a fireball to destroy it. The crowd cheered, making Nana very angry. They saw the action and remained indifferent, showing how low they were. Everyone then threw things at her. Katie told 2 to leave because there was no match there. Suddenly someone released Gazu's bird, which then attacked and killed many people. It turns out everyone everywhere is not his match. The door was closed and more people were killed. Nano stepped forward to fight the birdman. He is too strong. Oliver rushed to help but was severely injured. He was very scared, but Nano had extraordinary courage. Oliver healed his wounds and helped Nano, but there was no more time. They had to end the battle immediately. Oliver diverted the birdman's attention so Katie could finish the fight. Fortunately, at the last moment, Anil came so he could easily cut off his head. Finally, Oliver came to comfort Anil amid the audience watching the wounds caused by the birdman's attack on his friend. Anil said, "Why do they face enemies without fear while I am always afraid of losing? Because it is a shame." In the end, they became friends and Anil shed tears. The first time he saw his friend like that. After that incident, Oliver was again intercepted by the guards who asked about his condition. Life is strange, but who would have thought there would be a fire eagle attack? Indeed, bad luck? But still, Katie brings food for Chan every day, but usually she doesn't want to eat at all. However, today is strange, she even took a bowl and started eating. This morning, during science class, the teacher forced students to dissect a creature kept for research. Since then, Oliver has felt after that sad incident, he learned valuable lessons. But he still wonders, is he too optimistic? Is this revenge from the human rights group after the Chan uprising incident? At least if the perpetrator of the Fire Eagle incident is revealed, he would feel more relieved. Oliver said, "Don't expect anything from the school. They won't act because this happened in the labyrinth." But, on the other hand, Nana benefited greatly from this incident. Fans came flocking to ask about her skills and how she handled the situation. She became famous overnight. Katie saw this and wondered why Oliver also fought but wasn't famous. Pete said, "Nana's technique is striking, while Oliver's is simple and confusing, making Oliver's face darken." Chella then went to kiss Oliver but was pushed away by Oliver. Nana came hearing the story and kissed Oliver, and when Oliver returned her kiss, Oliver's sister came. In the first alchemy training session, they will create a magical potion according to the formula. They thought the teacher would mock them after Katie's incident, but he didn't. As they started, Y and a female student made a mistake, but Oliver quickly intervened. When it was Pete's turn, the situation worsened. The experimental tube looked like it was going to explode. Oliver immediately ran and hugged her. Everyone was surprised, but this time he managed to make a good impression on the strict teacher. However, as they left, the teacher said, "Choose your friends wisely." While everyone congratulated him, Anio came and warned him about the teacher, as he would take outstanding students as assistants and claim their achievements as his own. Someone known to Anio wanted to talk about the troll that attacked during the opening ceremony. It turned out that he was the one who put Katie in danger during the ceremony. Oliver thought there might be another group plotting to anger the troll. On the way home, Katie wanted to visit the troll. She fed the troll while asking why he was angry. Dano and Oliver taught each other how to use spells. Unexpectedly, the troll spoke, saying that he would become the war god Revi, and the food made him playful. The troll said, "Don't come again, he's dangerous." While talking about spells, Nana suddenly said that maybe the troll wanted to escape, not be angry, as he saw the troll running towards the school gate. Oliver felt something was wrong, then ended the training and looked for Katie. They arrived at the scene, finding only Katie's sword. The troll said he had been taken by a woman to the deepest and darkest place where he was once imprisoned. The reason the troll could speak was because several human rights groups experimented on him. Because he could speak, he was considered equal to humans and had human rights. They then headed into the labyrinth, going deep inside. If they went further, it would be very dangerous. Suddenly they were swallowed by something and taken to another place. It turned out Vera had trained a fire eagle as a pet, and Nano had turned its launch day into a sad day. She was truly insane. When she controlled the eagle didn't say anything, but when Katie came, the eagle spoke. It wanted to dissect Katie's brain. Seeing this, Nano immediately attacked but was hypnotized by the eagle's eyes. Fortunately, Oliver saved her just in time. It even claimed itself as a half-human. What kind of half-human is that cruel? Stop showing off those eyes, big brother. Be careful, you could lose an eye. Now they were already fighting. Oliver warned Nano not to get caught by the demon's eyes. They attacked together, but Nano's attacks were blocked by Vera. The eagle's eyes were truly terrifying. Nano attacked again, but it seemed she was no match for Vera. Twice in a row, Vera could block Nano's attacks, and now it was Vera's turn. Vera attacked like a witch. Nano tried to attack from behind but fell into a trap. Vera used fire to burn Nano like a squid, but Nano could sense the magic and dispelled it. After attacking together, they saw this battle becoming more intense. They fought passionately, and Nano attacked from behind. What is this? Why are so many demon eyes appearing? There were also demon eyes in her left hand, but that didn't bother Nano. She used the demon eyes and pierced Vera's hand until it was severed. Oliver watched in amazement. Time seemed meaningless in this battle. Could this be the 7th demon sword? They planned to get Katie out, but right at that moment, the chairman arrived. After coming to her senses, Katie was still very shocked. At first, Vera played purely, but after interacting with the eagle and being able to speak with a half-human researcher, it's no wonder the eagle is now the only creature successfully given intelligence. Therefore, the eagle will not be killed now. Hearing that, Katie jumped with joy and kissed Oliver and Nano on their cheeks because they had won the battle. partly because the troll was granted the right to live. Now that she's happy, she'll meet Vera and decide to break up. From now until graduation, she will make this place the best place. Hearing this, Oliver shed tears because he could still protect the goodness within him despite many things making him see the world differently. They were walking when they saw Teacher G in front of them and told them to go to the teacher's place. Oliver and his teacher talked about swallowing magic, and Teacher G had even conquered many powerful monsters in the place where the cannibals live. Oliver asked his teacher about the troll and why he gave a half to Vera. Teacher Giada replied that it was to destroy fools long ago because society consists of 1% talented people and 99% fools. After lying, the teacher asked Oliver to be his assistant. When Oliver asked where the teacher had gone last night, the teacher's face changed. Both fought. Oliver had seen the future, and most likely he would lose even though he fought many times. He must focus on what can bring him to victory. Finally, Oliver defeated his teacher, only to discover that the teacher was the one who had killed his mother 7 years ago. Now Oliver intends to exact revenge, inflicting upon his teacher 128 times the pain his mother had endured. First, by tearing, then by bending, all grievances forgiven. In the dead of night, a girl covered in wounds fled to the teacher who had attacked her mother from above. This was just one of the many painful memories. Seeing Oliver's face contorted with hatred towards the teacher, who was also his mother's murderer, perhaps stirred regret in him. However, a debt of blood must be repaid with blood. Finally, both cousins arrived. Suddenly, a girl named Anio appeared. It turns out she reported Vera to the chairman. Oliver's older brother made an inauguration ceremony for him and would lead until Oliver killed all the demons who betrayed and killed his mother. Oliver remembered all the faces and names who killed his mother, and Amai, the person his mother trusted when she was desperate, was the one who ended her life. It turns out that the people we love can betray us. Headmaster Kim B will pay a very high price. The other 6 could only enjoy their short time. In a room, Headmaster Kim Baz and most of Oliver's mother's killers were discussing the death of Teacher Gazel. Then a traitor returns. He is the one who can kill with an axe, but not from this side. At midnight, Pete was sleeping and felt his body was hot. When he woke up, he found his body had a female part. So shocked, she screamed until Oliver woke up. The next morning at school, everyone saw Pete holding her chest. Katie thought last night Oliver did something to her. Oliver might understand and tell everyone to leave her alone. Suddenly Chella saw her cousin walking by. Long time no see, huh? Pete seemed to hear it, but she deliberately ignored it and asked her servant to continue. Chella said that since entering school, she has always kept her distance from Chella. It's time to learn to ride a broom, and this lesson is taught by Teacher Du. Everyone is very enthusiastic about this lesson. Half a year had just begun when Mr. Du-Tin asked if everyone was ready and then opened the door to welcome the students into the broom house. Surprisingly, these were not ordinary brooms but creatures that could be ridden. They had to be compatible, otherwise they wouldn't allow themselves to be ridden. Everyone was excited to see so many brooms liked by Nana. With Nana's magical powers, this was easily understood. Suddenly, Nana spotted a broom in the corner and Mr. Du-Tin remarked that it was the most fierce broom. After a brief conversation, the broom finally allowed Nana to ride it. Mr. Du-Tin looked at her with a surprised expression because he had tried many times without success, whereas Nana did it effortlessly. Everyone below was also astonished. But suddenly Oliver remembered that the broom had once flown with his mother. During lunch, everyone was waiting for the alchemy lesson. Since Mr. Rio had disappeared, they had to study with a substitute teacher. Hearing that there was discord among the teachers, Mr. Du-Tin was then killed by a sorceress who held a grudge against Kim. Suddenly, while they were talking, Chella's father came and hugged her after not meeting for a long time. But Chella felt upset because her father didn't ask about Nana, who had been brought from a distant place and left alone. Surprisingly, Chella's father would teach alchemy for a while. The new substitute teacher was Theo J, who also introduced his work on the journey notes in the East. The first hands raised were Chella's cousin named Saki, and also Pete, who had questions about the corrected delivery method. The teacher was very surprised because Pete had read the entire book and promised to bring a gift. Next was the lesson on magical technology with Mr. Aniko, who said that the most dangerous person had come and Oliver felt the same way. Today, they would dismantle and analyze finished products, and these 4 boxes were magic traps that would activate in 60 minutes. If not dismantled in time, it could be dangerous, body parts could be torn apart. The official time started on the 3rd box. However, Oliver tried everything but still couldn't touch the mechanism inside, so they began to leave 3 minutes remaining. Everyone went to their safe places, but Pete still held the mechanism whose time had expired and exploded. Oliver hugged Pete and got bitten by a snake, but it was okay because Oliver, who had lived in the village since childhood, knew how to deal with them. He poured water all over his body and let the electricity flow on the surface of his body so the snakes let go. Finally, because of their good performance on the first day, everyone received antidote candies for snake bites. After the lessons, Oliver wanted to talk to Pete about the changes that had happened to him. When Oliver touched Pete, he realized that Pete had changed gender. Pete said that after a strange dream last night, his male body parts had turned female. Oliver understood and said that Pete had a very rare ability even in the magical world. This was an extraordinary talent. Oliver congratulated Pete on his new talent and asked Pete to test his abilities. It turned out Pete was much stronger when female. Each gender had its advantages. Suddenly, Oliver's elder brother came in and he also knew about Pete's change, then invited him to meet at 8 p.m. at the meeting event. That night, Oliver accompanied Pete to the labyrinth and they met with the club president who was also participating. They talked until they finally reached their destination. Many students with magical abilities related to gender had gathered there. A special event to welcome them began. In the morning, the club trained in broom matches, and this was Nana's first time seeing a broom match, so she was very enthusiastic. Chella suspected that Nana would also participate in the broom match. It was very fitting with this subject because you had a very cool broom. Suddenly a young man named Josie came to greet you, and he knew the names of the whole group because this group was very famous. He asked if you were going to AOL. This young man greeted me as if he had known me for a long time, then left. I didn't understand what he was doing here. Today in this lesson, Oliver still excels greatly. Next up is Pete. However, Pete seems very angry, so she becomes careless and loses in one move. Then Josie continues, Pete is a princess protected by her friends. Pete is very angry, but this young man is right, so his friends promise to train him to be ready for the upcoming exams. They say they will teach him the art of the sword from the set style, but Oliver mentions that in our school we are learning the nano style. Then these two start to argue, one wants you to try a new style, while the other wants you to learn the basics first. They ask Nano about which style is the strongest. Nano says it's difficult to choose. Then Oliver says, let me teach you. Oliver asks you about what you would do at different distances. Generally, the close range uses the sword and long range uses magic, but there's no answer yet for medium range. So Oliver instructs you to attack him to try it out. Pete attacks with magic, but before finishing the incantation, the sword is already at his throat. Oliver says there are two basic ways to win, victory with sword technique and victory with magic. But there's another way, which is whoever can sense and control distance better will win. The problem is when teaching you, Josie also heard everything. During lunch, Josie approaches Pete again and says he can teach him better than Oliver. Pete is very angry and says, have you no shame? Josie says that you're all strong, so underestimating each other and not wanting to play together. Everyone in the cafeteria who hears this argument starts paying attention. Josie asks who's the strongest in the first year. Of course, Nana currently holds this position, but Josie still wants to duel to take that position. Josie invites anyone who wants to duel to sign up. So Sue wants to challenge, not wanting to let you be in danger, and Faye joins too. Nano sees this and also wants to join. So this whole group joins in. Josie happily registers everyone. Each person gets one medal. The winner will get the medal from the loser. The place and time of the duel are up to them. After 1 week, the 4 people with the most medals will fight in the final. After that, a young man who claims to be Odes the Night Storm challenges Nano. Nano agrees, and both of them happily go to the sword arena. Generally, the young man recites his spell quickly while Nano simply plays with her sword. Because of that, the young man tries to attack from afar, but Nano is too quick and can avoid the wind attack with one move, making the young man scared. Nevertheless, her friends still see Nano's incredibly strong power. They promise to meet in the final and fight each other. Oliver returns to train his roommates again, but at the end of the day, Pete is tired and wants to go home. Just then, Teresa arrives and says that Wynn's sister and Sanon's cousin want to meet him. On the way to the labyrinth, they meet Ophelia, making Pete scared and ready to defend himself. Ophelia says she just wants to find someone to talk to and that Pete can endure her perfume. So she invites Pete to sit down and chat about their youth, asking about favorite cake flavors, and then asking what it's like to fight Garuda. Pete says he doesn't want to fight anymore. Then Ophelia tells stories about her friends. After their conversation session, Ophelia feels more comfortable and even approaches Pete like an old friend. Pete feels this is excessive because exams are near. Luckily, they're not caught. Finally, they meet Sanon and Wynn. You all said to consider this world as our home and to train comfortably, but Ophelia goes in and out without anyone knowing. Wynn and Sanon heard it and could only let it go because even if they chased, they wouldn't catch up. Besides, although Ophelia is dangerous, she was once Sanon's friend. Wynn asked if Oliver was sure about Nano's 7th demon sword. Oliver said he wasn't sure, but as a demon sword user, he could sense that Nano was the same. Moreover, Nano is like a magnet that can attract others to her. Even the crazy mother's broom relic is drawn to her. Oliver couldn't take his eyes off Nanao. In short, you got hit by a love spell. Wynn said that attraction to a witch is important because Nanao might change his life. Yes, change, but how that change would happen was still unknown. Wynn advised keeping feelings in his heart and being sincere with friends. In short, do you mean confessing love now will be rejected? Oliver felt that what Wynn said was true, bid farewell, and left, but someone followed him. Oliver immediately knew it was Josie. What grudge do I have with you? No, I'm just following you, Josie replied. Oliver asked why he kept attacking him from the outside. Josie reluctantly answered that he was jealous because everyone paid attention to Nanao. Even though Nanao was more famous and more adorable, Josie targeted Oliver. Generally, befriending someone too famous is also boring. Josie didn't want to beat around the bush and directly challenged Oliver to a sword duel without magic and with fewer spells to avoid killing. People usually use magic, but you want a pure fight, Oliver agreed immediately. Just starting, Josie already distracted and attacked roughly, surprising Oliver. Josie didn't follow any particular flow, more like street fighting because every time he learned a new technique, he found a way to counter it, got bored, and didn't learn any further. Josie was very tough in defense because he was too hard to predict. How could he bring iron gloves in a sword duel? Josie was very excited because the main goal in a fight was to kill the opponent. Oliver got hit on the nose until it bled, then got serious and defeated Josie in 8 attacks. Are you underestimating me? Josie angrily attacked. However, on the 7th attack, Oliver caught Josie's hand and twisted it behind his back. Even though the 3 main flows did not teach punch attacks, the basic theory taught how to deal with them. So, if you learn halfway like Josie, you won't develop. Josie felt very upset, broke free from the grip, and attacked again, but Oliver could also imitate Josie's technique using iron gloves. Josie lost and admitted defeat honestly even though he was very upset. Oliver praised Josie for having talent, but if he trained alone, he would stagnate. As long as it can still be improved, relearn the basics, said Oliver. Josie got angry. Why do you talk so much? Oliver said, I feel it's a shame about your talent. My talent only comes from learning from others in a structured way. Anyway, just go. Josie felt that learning in a structured way and remembering details to be fully applied is an extraordinary talent. Teresa, who witnessed the fight, said that Oliver was in a different class, admired Oliver's candidness, and felt happy to be used by him. Teresa blushed and left, while Josie was challenged by someone else to a duel again. That night, Oliver returned to his room and found Pete in her female form with a high fever. Oliver adjusted the magic flow for Pete and injected a bit of magic power. Relax, I've seen everything, said Oliver. Pete wasn't used to the change between male and female, thus having a high fever. Oliver said that this would happen often, but he would always help. Pete felt that keeping this secret was very tiring, so the next morning Pete told her friends. The friends congratulated her for having such a rare physical ability. How do you date with such changes? They asked. Oliver taught Pete how to adapt. Where are your hands? Asked Pete. Since becoming someone with a changed gender, Pete has an additional internal organ that only female witches possess. This organ can store a large amount of female magical energy. When Pete runs out of magical energy, this organ will open to replenish her energy. Pete can practice opening and closing this organ to draw in magical energy as needed. Chella opened it once for Pete, and she felt as if she had just gained new strength. After hearing this, Nana also wanted to know if she had the same organ and asked Pete to check if she could store energy. Katie said that now that Pete is a girl, she should try wearing a skirt. At that moment, a young man named Josie arrived. After losing to Oliver, Josie kept losing repeatedly and felt very sad. He warned everyone to be careful because there was someone very strong around. Josie hoped to see how strong Pete would become. That afternoon, Josie planned to fight Pete, but it seemed he had a grudge against her. Pete attacked cautiously but still got hit and fell to the ground. She got up and fell again after being struck by a spell. Pete couldn't avoid the attacks and instead got hit by electricity. It turned out that Josie wanted revenge because he was humiliated by Chella's father. Despite receiving many attacks, Pete kept getting up and fought back. Just when she was about to win, time ran out, and Pete felt very sad because her opponent wasn't hurt at all. Her friends said it was lucky that Pete didn't die. Sue guessed that the last attack was Josie's attempt to humiliate Pete. After losing, Josie realized his mistake and comforted Pete, deciding to start learning from scratch. That day, Katie was talking about personal matters with her friends when she received a letter from Vera, who apologized and offered her research space to Katie. Katie invited all her friends to come to the research room. Oliver warned that as long as they couldn't protect themselves, exploring the labyrinth was dangerous. Katie mentioned that 820 students were killed every year in this school for experiments. She wanted to change this trend by becoming an influential researcher and therefore needed her own research space to breed magical creatures. However, she couldn't do it alone and asked her friends to help manage the lab. All her friends agreed without hesitation because they liked the idea. They wanted to see the results of Katie's efforts. Oliver agreed as long as it was safe. They planned to go to the lab the next day. That night, they set off, with Nano's broom leading the way to avoid getting lost in the labyrinth. Katie thought that because there were many of them, they wouldn't be scared. Oliver, who often went there, knew the place was very dangerous as they might encounter monsters or lost students. Just as he said this, Katie almost followed a swarm of rats because she thought they were cute. Along the way, they met many monsters, but Katie's spirits remained high. Suddenly, Katie sensed danger on a narrow path ahead. She told everyone to stop and threw a stone to test the path. Thorns grew on the walls, indicating it was a nest of dangerous creatures that could stab but not kill. Katie burned some incense to make these creatures sleep before they passed through. However, before they finished, hazardous smoke appeared, causing them to run as fast as they could. As a result, Oliver's butt got pierced by a thorn, and he demanded that Katie take responsibility. When they smelled a pleasant aroma, they stopped to look and found it was the labyrinth's culinary club. Kevin invited them to eat together. As they were about to sit down, someone caught a leech and wanted to roast it. Another person got poisoned after eating a monster. Kevin gave an antidote, and they continued eating. Kevin was very famous because he had once been lost in the labyrinth for half a year but managed to return. Hearing about the BBQ party, Pete, who had never tried it, wanted to buy some ingredients. It turned out there was a woman selling food in the labyrinth. When asked if they wanted delicious or just filling food, the woman gave them a large box of food and said that since it was their first time, she gave a discount. However, she joked that if they didn't survive, their meat would be sold by her. Finally, they found a spacious place to set up their headquarters. All the cooking equipment was available there. Before starting to work, they discussed their desires. Oliver said that he wanted to use this place as their base. Everyone agreed to explore the thorny labyrinth and suggested setting up more traps. That night, the whole group enjoyed a very pleasant BBQ together. It was the first time Chella ate and played all night with friends like this. Chella then wanted to give a name to this playgroup to prove that their friendship was something clear and serious. No one had thought of this before and asked Pete if she could think of a good name. Nana stood up and invited everyone to form a circle and unite their swords with her. In Nana's hometown, this blooming sword symbolized the bond between warriors, but no one had to swear to always be friends forever because everyone could be friends with whomever they wished. The point was to remember the moment that they were once together. Warriors only spoke of the present, and this blooming sword was embedded in their hearts and would never wither. Therefore, the group's name would be the Blooming Sword Group. Everyone agreed that the name was nice and blushed as if they had just confessed their love. Oliver was also touched and remembered his friend's image as well, promising never to forget anyone who borrowed money, he meant never to forget his friends. Sue told Faye that Oliver's group had entered the labyrinth, and Sue saw this as a great opportunity. Some of the kids were camping together for the first time, so they were very excited and couldn't sleep. Meanwhile, Katie, who had started this event, slept like a log. The next morning, very early, Nana wanted to practice. Oliver asked if since that day she could perform the time-slicing technique again. Nana said no, it might have just been a fluke. Nana asked for a sword duel, but Oliver refused because he wanted Nana to learn magic first. When Nana mastered switching between sword and magic, then they would duel. Oliver was speaking when suddenly he heard a porcupine scream. It turned out Katie had brought a talking troll to live with them. No wonder it was shocking to wake up and see this troll. This troll was brought by Vera. Vera said not to be afraid because now the troll had repented. Pete woke up startled and saw a hand moving by itself. It turned out Vera's hand healed itself after being injured. Vera said she saw potential in Katie, so she invested a little to gain a reputation later. The troll would be taken care of by Katie, and Katie even named the troll Mako. The troll knew Oliver because Katie often talked about Oliver's youth. Mako also knew Katie's friends. Katie asked if her brother's friends were also her friends. It was someone else who said that, but Oliver and everyone agreed to be friends with the troll. Vera then guided everyone to the nearest exit from the labyrinth. After that, they all decided to go deeper to explore. Ahead of them was a bone gate to the second level of the labyrinth. This place was called the Bustling Forest. The environment and everything else were more complex than the first level. Chella said that today they should stop here and return for preparations. However, Sue and Faye appeared and wanted to challenge them for a medal. Seeing this and growling made Sue break into a cold sweat and set the rule that pets were not allowed. Sue wanted to fight here and would make it a 2-on-2 battle. Oliver asked Chella, and she said those two had been together for a long time, so they might be very in sync. But she wanted to see how well they knew each other after this half year. Oliver decided to send Nano and Chella to fight. At that moment, Guy appeared and pressed for a 3-on-3 fight, making Chella worried. Nana asked who that person was, and Oliver said he only knew that Guy's family trained very good fighters. Chella said that Guy was the top candidate and very strong. Sue felt very uncomfortable because suddenly their group had one more person. Guy asked if they dared to fight. In his eyes, only Oliver and Nana mattered, while the others were considered insignificant. Chella was very angry. Who was considered insignificant? Oliver agreed to a 3-on-3 fight. Sue felt uneasy, but Faye said that 3 people were more likely to beat them, so Sue agreed. Guy led everyone to the second level to fight and told the weak ones to go home. Chella was worried, but the others said they wanted to go down to support their friends. A young man said to stay calm, he would protect them. At the second level, the battlefield had completely changed. Guy led everyone to an open field and started fighting. This time, the magic effects were halved and there were no fatalities. Sue told Guy not to interfere in the fight between her and Chella and not to stab them in the back. Guy agreed because he only wanted to fight Nanao. The battle began. Oliver blinded PH and switched to fighting Guy because he was very annoying. Sue cursed at PH for being useless and ordered him to hold Nanao so she could fight Chella. These two were fighting together for the first time, so they were very excited. Chella attacked and wondered why Sue hated her so much. Sue said she didn't know, but since they both had the same fighting style, Nanao suspected they came from the same school. PH said they had come from the same school since childhood. After that, he threw a fog and fled. Nanao laughed and chased him. Oliver attacked Guy and made the ground collapse beneath him. Oliver jumped and then tried to slash Guy, but he dodged. After that, he threw crazy lightning, but it also missed. Oliver was maintaining his balance in the fight. At that moment, Ngi realized that Oliver's natural talent was mediocre. "Come on, hit me first," Ngi yelled and attacked Oliver. Oliver tried to use magic to deflect the sword and then counterattack, but Ngi noticed and it didn't work. Ngi said that Oliver fought no differently than an expanded textbook. However, the next slash directly scratched Oliver's face like a textbook. Studying is very important, isn't it, friends? Hearing this, the spectators watching the battle became angry. On this side, Katie found that the previous lightning magic made her realize there was something strange on the roof. On the other side, Faye and Sue looked weak. Sue asked Faye if she wanted to help her win. Faye started to recall their childhood, fighting, but there's time to reminisce. Faye remembered that she should have been killed like a stray dog, but Sue saved her and asked her father for permission to keep her. So, Faye said, "Whatever you want, I'll do it." Hearing this, Sue conjured a false moon. Faye saw the moon and immediately transformed into a werewolf. Then, they both joined and attacked together. With the body of a werewolf, Faye was very strong. Nano attacked but was unsuccessful. Additionally, Sue could release electricity at any time. Sue was angry and swore not to be Chella's backup. On this side, Ngi asked Oliver if he wouldn't save his 2 friends. Oliver said, "There is a weak wolf, so how can you defeat my friend?" He didn't understand why Sue kept bothering him. "But first, let's get rid of the face transformation," he said. He suspected that to enroll in this academy, Face was a half-human, half-wolf. So, when transforming into a wolf, he must be in great pain. To win, you make your friend suffer like this. However, X frowned. "Since childhood, my father never praised me but was very good to Chella. So, how can someone born with everything like Chella understand people who have to struggle to get everything like us?" Then they resumed fighting. Nano said that Chella was wrong because just asking was not enough, because these two had risked their lives in this battle. If you fight people who are so determined without giving your all, it is very disrespectful to them. Chella also realized this and decided to fight quickly so that Face wouldn't suffer too much. Sue heard this and became even angrier. "Are you insulting us?" Here they exchanged 200 moves, but there was still no winner. Ngi kept taunting Oliver out of moves. But Oliver said, "I am not hurt by your taunts." Ngi seemed less confident than his appearance suggested. The way Ngi taunted Oliver was like a weak person trying to bring others down to feel better. Ngi waited until the two were very close and then activated a freeze on the opponent. It turned out Oliver was fine because he had calculated everything. Although this magic was very strong, Ngi had no basic knowledge of attack and defense at very close range. Here, Faye rushed to separate the two because they were far apart, so there was no worry. Nano attacked, so they both calmly attacked. Chella saw this and cast an electric spell, but Sue was not afraid because the face in this form was resistant to electricity. But strangely, the two were thrown because of the shock. Chella said she had changed the nature of the electricity not to focus on damage but to spread paralysis. Faye was fine but Sue was hit, so they both lost. But Sue still tried to attack. Here, 2 men held hands from top to bottom of the trench but didn't let go. Ngi asked, "How long do you want to hold hands?" Oliver replied, "In a fight, I am not as strong as you, but I am the king of persistence, so I want to test your endurance." Here Sue still lost, and Chella said, "You haven't trained your heart strong enough." Ngi felt that if this continued, he would lose. He swung his arm but immediately received a painful kick. Before he could even process the pain, Oliver added a wind punch that sent him flying several meters. Ngi officially lost. Z had already lost for the 3rd time and knelt crying. "Why do I keep trying but can't win?" Have you ever tried so hard in life but didn't get the results like this? Faye comforted, we're just too weak and haven't tried hard enough. Chella didn't understand why her friend hated her, but Faye said, you're not wrong, it's just that you shine too brightly. Sue was born into a branch family, and her family was only a backup if the main family branch had problems. In other words, according to tradition, Chella's father had to have 2 children, one for the main branch and one for the additional branch. Sue was Chella's half-sister but was not acknowledged by her father and sister. She was just a backup. No matter how hard she tried, her father didn't care about her. So, winning against Chella was her last hope to be recognized as her father's child. Even though she knew that winning wouldn't change anything, Sue still clung to it to keep living and striving. Nana said, you can't replace anyone. For example, if Chella were gone, would you have to cherish me to replace her? So, live as yourself. Hearing that, Sue finally understood. Oliver saw the situation and suggested Ngi try fighting with Chella. But Ngi also wanted to reminisce and gather everything before saying that he once had a friend who was the child of a servant in his house, and they both played chess together. The child was very foolish, but by reading books seriously and diligently, he finally managed to defeat Ngi for the first time. Seeing him win, my heart was as happy as if liberated. I thought this was something worth showing off, so I told my father. My father was so shocked that it surprised me. I waited for him to come to play chess, but unexpectedly, he never came again and his whole family was treated that way. Since then, Ngi has become obsessed with winning, not just for himself but also for his family. Unfortunately, he lost and called on monsters to handle the situation, asking them to erase our memories of today, but that would ruin the storyline. Both sides attacked each other. I had made traps using ropes and leaves so we could all hide. When Faye came in, she was scared because she thought they didn't deserve to be saved, so I had to shout for them to listen. There were rope traps, but we had to wait for Smell to drive away Katie's insects so they would leave. However, Smell couldn't hold out long, so we had to think of another way. Maybe erasing the memory of this battle wasn't so bad, but Nana wanted to win for Ngi. Even if he didn't have the right to acknowledge the person who defeated him, it was very sad. We didn't intend to give up. Oliver said that if we fought, it was like gambling. Pete said Oliver wasn't a babysitter. They could fight after discussing the strategy. We replaced Smell with Smell who sucked the insects. This time, Chella would bring out her trump card. It turned out Chella was half fairy and she began to grow fairy wings just as the bees destroyed the traps and attacked. We all worked together to shoot and kill some bees. The advantage of being a fairy is being able to use double-layered magic. When the opponent was off guard, Nana rode a broom and attacked, making Ngi fall. Then there was a duel between Nana and Ngi. Nana said winning or losing is a matter of 2 people, even the gods can't change reality. Ngi laughed broadly and then attacked, but lost in 1 move. Friends were confused about how Chella could turn into a fairy and asked why she didn't use her powers earlier. Chella said winning with a physical advantage was unfair and she wanted to be near Sue because it had been a long time since they met. Besides, her father brought Sue's laurel ring that she used when she was little. Where did you keep it? Do you have a bag like Dune? Chella couldn't call Sue her sister, but she always carried this ring because it was Sue's precious item. Hearing this, Sue felt happy but still called her stupid. Ngi fainted for a moment before waking up after the absolute defeat. He felt relieved. Men can't be friends without fighting. Oliver invited Ngi for a duel again when he became stronger. Even though by then Ngi might be very strong, Oliver was confident he would also be strong enough to continue the adventure in today's labyrinth, which finally closed. All groups left happily, but below many monsters suddenly appeared and captured Ngi. The promise was no more, everyone was scared and ran away. Faye and Pete were caught. Outside, Anbin and Carlotte were with everyone closing the labyrinth entrance. Oliver ran away to tell his brother that his friends had been captured. 8 other incidents also occurred because Ophelia had been trapped by magic. Hearing this, Oliver felt horrified because he had previously been warned not to enter the labyrinth in the coming months. Inside the labyrinth, Ophelia had captured all the students in a cage, and then led all the students to prepare to act. Ophelia was their good friend, not to mention an important figure in the student organization. They couldn't just stand by. Anbin saw Faye and Ophelia moving. Carlotte said if they failed, everything would be handled by Anbin. Oliver's group waited for several days without any news from Pete. Guy was worried because he didn't know if the students were serious about searching for her. Katie and Chella told him to stay calm. Oliver agreed because they were all weak and couldn't do anything yet. Guy said at least if they were captured together, he could cook for Pete. Don't joke, said Nano. If we're caught, we'll only be eating sorrowful rice. Guy was angry because Nano spoke inappropriately. Nano said in her village, being caught meant an 80% chance of meeting their ancestors. Oliver reassured them not to be pessimistic because Mez's trap was designed to capture them alive, so Ophelia needed them alive, though it was unclear what Ophelia intended to do. Oliver then became anxious and sought his older siblings for help, But Ophelia's place on the third floor was very dangerous and he couldn't just mobilize the organization's members carelessly. Oliver felt powerless. Katie asked for help from Teacher Gallon, but he said Pete's case wasn't serious enough for him to search for her. The teacher could only start searching after a student had been missing for 3 days. 3 days. Your friend has long been dead, said the teacher. Katie, don't be naive in thinking the teacher will always help. Chella also wanted to help. She went to ask her father for assistance but was also rejected because at this school if you don't have the power to protect yourself, you will eventually lose your friends again. So, she told Pete that tonight she would enter the labyrinth without caring about anything to find Pete. Oliver thought she was crazy because she might just go down to sell salt. Do you think? Chella cried directly when Pete was captured. She stepped back because she thought he would live, and that's the way to save the whole group. This is a rather complicated text and it seems there are some transcription errors. However, I will try to provide an understandable translation of the paragraph. Oliver wanted to go along, but Chella disagreed because the three of them didn't see the existence of the 2 children, and Oliver was very angry and insisted not to let Chella go alone. Meanwhile, Vera was also there and smiled. Katie wanted to make a deal with Vera. You can do anything, but please save my friend, she said. Everyone went crazy. Oliver asked Vera to let his sister go, but Katie refused vehemently. Vera said that with Ophelia's personality, there was a chance of life as big as a toe. Ophelia wanted to pursue magical knowledge, so she wouldn't hesitate to sacrifice them. Vera said that their research was stagnant, so she wanted to study with Katie. Vera proposed to train the whole group because Ophelia was stronger than Vera, so there was hope if they worked together. If not, all the children would end up in pictures with an old statue. After this incident, Vera wanted Katie to become her partner and do research together. Katie agreed, and Oliver asked if she was serious. Vera told them to stay calm and said they would listen to the story after they returned. When they decided to go down to the labyrinth, Nana also wanted to go with them. Whether she wanted to pick up her friend or a corpse, she wanted to go with them. Chella couldn't say anything and preferred this to anything else. Katie was sad because she was too weak to go with the others. Nana told her to take care of the tasks in class and asked her to copy the work. Katie agreed happily and waited for her friends to return. Guy was also sad because he couldn't go with them. However, Guy gave some tree seeds to Oliver to make a fence and some bot for them to eat on the way. Oliver promised to bring Pete back before they left. Vera gave her hand to Katie to hold. If your brother goes to sell salt, Minnie will replace your brother. Oliver told them both to stay calm and wait for them to come back. They then continued down the rocky path towards the labyrinth. Pete woke up with the look of "Where am I? Who is this?" When Ophelia went to check on her, the captured children quickly fell asleep or did not sleep. Pete, being small, managed to escape the 80-second accident. Vera explained during the journey how sucker birds from generation to generation always mixed with various genes from many species to create the most perfect individual. This experiment had failed and the sucker bird tribe became extinct, but Ophelia's Savato family had found a way to use the sucker bird's womb as an aquarium to create the desired creatures to create chema, so Ophelia needed a lot of energy. Therefore, she had to capture many people to gather energy. Ophelia only needed male magical power, but then her friends were Icelandic. Oliver said, "Oh, speaking a bit, my friends told Vera since she is now an ally, so there's no harm." Vera was surprised because Pete was very special. But the situation seemed serious because if Ophelia found out that Pete was a little girl, she would sell salt immediately. Generally, Oliver didn't think Mako was still alive at the base and wondered, how could Mako have escaped? Some, like Guy, said they didn't want to force me. Vera saw this as a sign. A good sign because the children of Kima listened to Ophelia's commands and acted with clear intent, which meant that Ophelia was still reasonable. Vera gave each of Ophelia's boys an anti-aroma medicine. Here, the council team split into 2 teams to search the area when the council met the Englishman, Kevin. Kevin gave them 2 books, saying they were diaries. He joked, "These are detailed maps of the 3rd floor." Then he said goodbye to both of them and went to explore further. On this side, Oliver's group met with the children at the dining table. Previously, they had to be avoided, but now it was necessary to move forward. So, Vera became a model once more to teach the little ones. Generally, mastering the traits of the devils means seizing opportunities and not being hesitant. Vera's victory was made up of unsettling stones, advancing slowly and completing the task. Although it seemed simple, it was difficult. Vera said, 3 people working together to attack will make it easier to win. She said this, so Oliver added, "You stay calm. We plan to go to the 2nd floor next." So, Vera told me to remember this. Yes, okay, I went back to the past when Ophelia was a bit angry at the flowers, eventually becoming acquainted with Ophelia, thinking she was like the others and became strange after talking to me, but amusingly it was no problem. Still holding hands, from there we became close friends. Vong, who had just met her, held her hand without feeling it was strange, maybe because of her beauty. Back to the present, the funny thing was she only met Ophelia according to an agreement between the two houses. However, from this usual time, I hope Ophelia feels happy with this person. Vera led the whole group into the forest alone, despite it being dangerous, ignoring what her mother said about wandering alone. Here, to help the isekai fish, the group soon returned to the path as they might be attacked by Ophelia's ghost every 5 hours. Tying my arm as if it were strange, the little one wanted to rest, eat cake, and was scared. Not daring to speak, some brothers sat and ate pieces of cake, talking pleasantly. Initially not noticing, they thought he had to go save his best friend, Oliver, to get water. But actually, he was talking to Teresa, who had been following him for a long time. Oliver's brothers and cousins were looking to help him on the second floor, but this place was dangerous, so Teresa wanted to take her brother home. Oliver always asked why they didn't follow orders but stopped me. Teresa said that since Oliver served as a general, he was officially the highest authority. Soon, someone would replace Teresa. So, sir, use me as best as possible for Oliver. If it feels dangerous, inform me. But don't try too hard not to die. The whole group then arrived at the large Minsu, the gateway to the second floor, fascinated by some children walking along the tree trunks, wondering why not fly straight up to be quick. No, that's how I framed this thought, so Vera walked this way to be safe. Oliver asked why the maze was and what the sun was like. Vera explained how because it had been a long time since the sun hadn't set. So this is a paradise where plants don't sleep, this is a forest that doesn't sleep. We continued past confusing obstacles. How now it seems so little, Teresa had gone ahead to prepare the way for some to face the cave entrance. Vera said, "What you see, don't be afraid, and don't attack like that." Then, when the large V appeared, ignoring the child who was very sad because of being beaten by Ophelia's ghost, Vera used the ghost or monkey's offensive reaction to ask them to stop fighting. Nana told me, "Leave me," and put down the sword, explaining her morality to me on TikTok. Hearing this child talk, I fell asleep. So like that, don't fall asleep, so I asked if you knew the monkey's sound. Nana said, conveying the universe's message that I could still read it, but with 3 monkeys, what would I eat? So, with a calm heart, they believed all of it, and Vera didn't expect it. These people were better than I thought. Here, Sue brought Lin to the maze to find Lin and told me, "Don't worry, like a dog." Sue said to rub my friend, not the dog talking, and went very fast. Be patient and help each other as if you were on this side of the universe. There was a strange noise, and a monkey came out of the cave. Above, there was the sound of a villain, a giant horse insect. They thought it was a very tight battle, but the insect launched its head at the monkey and a group of attackers attacked it. Rains attacked until there was an explosion like shattering dust, sliding into an attack. The child shot some donkeys on its back, becoming small, running with pants on the tree it pierced entirely. All the attackers attacked simultaneously, but the skin was too tough not to lose. Oliver guaranteed an attack on its weakness, but wherever he went, he said he broke his leg and shattered it. Think carefully, who would think their leg would grow back? Oliver mentioned that he threw a cold blast that broke this skin. Oliver did it loudly, and people impressed you very much, but when you think you will win, that is the most dangerous time to understand why you do not fight but stand in front of the bull. Oliver and his friends split into 3 directions, attacking him with sticks, bringing him down, and then sliding into kick under his chin. They also shot sticks at his back. This is a horse or a horse, Vera. Running into a face like that, I say it's not wrong. But it turns out Oliver took this piece of the shield to help, which is different from what happened in the universe of Dengue. And then making love using magic that freezes his brain too. All 3 were very happy because the burdensome people were so lucky not to die, Vera said. I don't join the battle, I want to train the children before winning and crushing monsters until break time, Vera asked. Oliver hasn't played with Pete for a long time, and why did he risk his life for that man? Oliver told about the first time Katie was almost buried alive by her son, and 5 people there also saved them from that encounter. The Cloud Dragon is generally the sweetest of all jokes. Pete gathered everyone with talent but still kept trying to catch you, and everyone loved Pete a lot, Vera said. Among us, it is hardest to understand you, though Oliver does not have the talent and tradition like Nanao and Chella. But everything in the textbooks can be different with 2 talented people like them because you are the main character. This woman thought Oliver had something in the past, so she strengthened Oliver's face as if she already knew a little. Vera saw that she was chatting and asked about the surprising past, so she took the excuse of being late and went there. And Jai also woke up. The youth saw Pete smelled something and it was okay. Suspected Pete was the princess who believed Pete was what Phinia did not expect to say, and threw her hand to her stomach to take 3 pills. The diamond medicine was a joke. This is a smoke bomb and a calling for help ball, and giving you because it broke like this, and Jai held it uselessly, so he naturally destroyed his stomach. So wouldn't Jai advise Pete when Phineas did not let the desire to escape just make a sound to tell people that the position could reverse the situation, just carefully asking Pete's friends to receive the ball and decided to take everyone away from there.